Value is not inherent. It is a social consensus. For the ultra-wealthy, a canvas is a high-density asset. Protected by a tri-pillar system, built to be unbreakable, a network of labs and custodians guarding the gates, every transaction is backed by an ironclad chain of custody. Meet the gatekeeper. Connoisseurship is the first firewall, but when the eye fails, the machine takes over. The law follows the science. Provenance is absolute truth. The year is 2011. A private room in Manhattan. The men in this room trust a flawless system. $42 million is on the line tonight. But the fortress of certainty has a blind spot. Experts looked for forgeries. They never looked at the source. They bought a soul. They got a synthetic fabrication. 48 hours ago, this was sitting in a plastic bin. Retail price, $19.99. Plus tax. She didn't outsmart the system. She exploited its arrogance. The impossible paradox. A lie blessed for $42 million. She forged the certainty, and they chose to believe. A $20 canvas. $42 million. This is Vane. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to press the bell icon so that you'll be notified with our upcoming videos. Value is not inherent. To understand the lie, you must first understand the wall it climbed. The art world is not a marketplace. It is a fortress, built on the absolute rejection of the counterfeit. This is the fortress of certainty. Pillar 1. Forensic chemistry. In labs like this, matter is interrogated and pigments are stripped to their atomic weight. X-ray diffraction maps the age of the binder. Anachronisms are found in parts per billion. If a single molecule is out of time, the asset is dead. But chemistry only proves what it isn't. Pillar 2 proves what it is. The Catalogue Raisonné. Every master has a definitive ledger of their work, compiled by historians who spend decades in the dust. If it isn't in the book, it doesn't exist. This is the academic seal, the high court of history. Then comes Pillar 3, the legal custodians, the paper trail, the ironclad chain of ownership. Provenance is the bloodline of value. Every transfer, every vault, every signature. Verified. These pillars create a mathematical certainty, a shield no amateur could ever hope to pierce. It was never looking for a $20 receipt from Ohio. To break the system, you don't need a degree. You only need to be invisible. Meet Elena, an ivory-carved artisan, in the shadows of the elite, repairing souls, masterpieces she could never own. One Tuesday night, a fluorescent purgatory. She wasn't looking for a weapon. She was looking for a distraction. In the back of the store, a blue plastic bin. $20 dreams of amateur painters. She ran her fingers across the industrial weave. The realization was a cold, sharp blade. Experts look for the chemistry of the old. They have no defense against the chemistry of the new. She took the canvas to the register.
Thank you. Let's see here.
$19.99. The transaction that would haunt the world. She walked into the rain. Discovery complete. Elena understood the first rule of forgery. Don't fake the art, fake the age. To pass the system, the canvas had to change. She began by stripping the modern DNA. A cheap pine stretcher is a modern fingerprint, visible to any infrared scan. She replaced it with the antique frame, the obsidian shell from a forgotten landscape. Next, the surface. The weave was too perfect. A geometric confession of the modern age. She applied gesso mixed with ground marble dust. This wasn't for the eye, it was for the touch, creating irregularities of a centuries-old base. Then came the chemistry. They look for binders. They look for the molecular degradation of oil. Elena used an industrial centrifuge to separate the oil's fatty acids, simulating 300 years of oxidation in 300 hours. This reconstituted oil was her secret code. It wouldn't just look old. It would be old. Every layer was a trap. Every crack a calculation. To defeat X-ray scanners, she avoided synthetics. She ground genuine lapis lazuli stones, the same mineral used by the masters. It wasn't about color, it was about atomic weight. When the machine looked through the paint, it would see the density of the past. But chemistry was only the first layer. To fool historians, the canvas had to suffer. Elena used the thermal shock method. She placed it inside the UV chamber, baking the paint until binders reached exhaustion.
The chamber is ready.
Then, the reversal. The deep freeze. The sudden contraction forced a shatter. This wasn't a pattern. It was organic. The scars of 2 centuries of winters. She turned her focus to the dust of ages, infusing cracks with carbon black and resin. Exposure to candlelight and coal-heated rooms. It had to breathe the past. Finally, the third pillar. Provenance.
Canvas was painted in...
The system trusts the paper more than paint. Elena forged correspondence of dead collectors. She used hand-carved ivory stamps. Galleries that no longer exist. She created a bloodline for the asset, leading directly to the vaults of Switzerland. Mathematical certainty was now a perfect circle. The Walmart canvas was gone. In its place stood a masterpiece. The final pillar was the most fragile, the human consensus. Elena knew that if the paper was old, the history became real. She sourced blank end papers from 17th century Bibles. She used the antique typewriter to draft internal memos of a liquidated Paris gallery. The ink wasn't modern, a custom mix of iron, gall, and soot, designed to fade at a precise rate. Then came the phantom entry. To defeat the Catalogue Raisonné, she exploited a lost entry, a work mentioned in a 1947 footnote. She became the photographer. She took a grainy, black and white photo and aged the negative in a chemical bath. Using the hand-carved ivory stamps, she blessed the forged correspondence with the authority of the past. She created a bloodline for the asset, from a Nazi-occupied cellar to a Swiss vault. The three pillars were no longer a shield. They were a pedestal. The Walmart canvas didn't just enter. It was welcomed home. The impossible paradox was now a documented truth. $42 million for a social consensus. The system survived, but the wall has a hole, and Elena is still out there. Elena's masterpiece was now a ghost. Even ghosts must pass through the gates of the material world. The escalation began at the border. She packed the canvas into the customs crate. She was sealing the impossible paradox in a shell of wood and steel. The journey to Manhattan was a calculated risk. But the system has eyes that chemistry cannot fool. Meet the inspector.
Baltic origin. Here. It matches.
He is the first filter of the fortress. He doesn't look for the soul of the work. He looks for the density of the wood.
Analyzing weave tension. Joint integrity nominal.
In the cold light of the warehouse, the crate was fed into the X-ray scanner. This was the moment of the first near fail. The machine was looking for the lead-based primers of the old world. If it found the polymers of a $20 Walmart canvas, the lie would evaporate. Elena watched from the loading dock. Her ivory brow was glistening with the moisture of the harbor air.
The logistics report shows inconsistencies. Where is the backup documentation? Verify these figures immediately. I need a final confirmation before launch.
The machine hummed, its green light searching for a flaw. The scanner spiked, an anomaly in the corner. A loose staple had exposed a millimeter of the synthetic weave. The inspector paused. His ivory hand reached for the chemical sniffer. This device was designed to catch the scent of modern adhesives, the specific chemicals of retail manufacturing. As the silver nozzle hovered over the gap, the world narrowed to a single heartbeat.
Calibrating. Scanning. Alert. It's clear.
But the dust of ages Elena had infused into the cracks acted as a chemical shield. The tobacco resin and coal soot masked the scent of the synthetic threads. A phone rang, shattering the silence. A distraction from the office above. The inspector pulled back. His suspicion was interrupted by the bureaucracy of the day. He pressed the heavy rubber stamp onto the crate. Passed. The asset was no longer a secret. It was a cargo. The gates of Manhattan were opening. The escalation was complete, but the endgame would require a different kind of deception. Manhattan was waiting. To fool the eye is easy. To fool the conviction is the work. The stage was set. The room was a cathedral of capital. The men in this room didn't buy art. They bought
The bid
certainty.
is at 200,000. Who will go higher? 210.
The air was thick with the scent of old paper and wealth. The auctioneer raised the gavel. The bid climbed from 10 million to 20.
20 million. Going once, going twice.
Then 30.
$30 million. Do I hear 35?
The tension was a physical weight. $42 million.
The current bid is now 42 million.
The hammer fell, and the lie was legalized.
Thank you, sir.
The Walmart canvas was now a masterpiece. The world accepted the paper trail. But every lie has a half-life. 2 years later, the fortress of certainty began to crack. It wasn't a machine that failed. It was the material. A routine cleaning in a private vault.
Scanning sequence initiated. Status: secure and stable.
A junior conservator noticed a loose staple. He saw the industrial weave. He didn't believe his eyes. He used forensic reagents to test the binder. The blue lapis lazuli was real, but the polymer underneath was a ghost from a factory. The synthetic threads that shouldn't exist. He filed the truth report. He mapped the contradiction in parts per billion. The system went silent. They met in a room with no windows. They didn't sue for fraud. They didn't call the police. They buried the evidence. They looked at the certificate of authenticity and then at the shredder. To admit the forgery was to destroy the consensus. $42 million of value would evaporate. The entire market would tremble. So they chose the lie. The report was shredded. The files were deleted. The canvas remains in the vault, locked behind a door of obsidian and steel, a masterpiece of social consensus.
Authorities are urging caution as the storm intensifies. Stay tuned for updates.
Elena watched the news from a distance. She sat in a room with rain against the glass. She didn't just steal their money, she stole their reality. She turned their fortress into a glass house. Value is not inherent, it is a social consensus, and a $20 canvas proved it. The machine caught the master forger, but it was blind to the retail receipt. This is the impossible paradox. This is Vane. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to press the bell icon so that you'll be notified with our upcoming videos.